This story is about a man standing on the edge of a bridge, ready to die. Not because he stopped loving his family, but because he loved them too much to let them see him fail. Kunle Adebayo spent 20 years being everyone's hero, the perfect husband, the generous church elder, the father who gave his children everything. But behind closed doors, he was drowning in debt, borrowing from his brother-in-law's retirement, from the church building fund, from anyone who still believed his lies. And when the weight became unbearable, he decided his death was worth more than his life. His wife Aduni found his suicide note that morning. Now she's racing through Lagos traffic, desperate to reach him before it's too late. Will pride destroy this family forever? Or can love pull a man back from the edge? Aduni's hands shook as she held the suicide note. 20 years of marriage, and her husband wanted to end his life rather than face her with the truth. My beautiful wife. The letter began in Kunle's familiar handwriting. By the time you read this, I will be gone. I cannot live with the shame of what I have done to our family. She had found it that morning, tucked under his pillow when she went to make their bed. Her heart stopped beating for what felt like hours. Kunle had left for work as usual, kissing her forehead and promising to bring home her favorite suya for dinner. Now she understood why his kiss felt different, why he held her a little longer, why his eyes looked so sad. The letter continued, each word cutting deeper into her soul. I have lost everything. Our money, our properties, our future. I borrowed from your brother, from our church, from friends who trusted us. I am not the man you married. I am not the father our children deserve. Aduni collapsed on their bed, the same bed where they had whispered dreams to each other as young lovers, where they had held their newborn babies, where just last night, Kunle had turned away from her, claiming he was tired. Now she knew he was preparing to say goodbye forever. Her phone rang, her daughter Falake, calling from London about wedding dress fittings. Mama, I'm so excited. Only 6 weeks left. I can't wait for everyone to see how beautiful you and Papa have made everything for us. Aduni's voice broke. My dear. Mama, are you crying? What's wrong? How could she tell her daughter that there would be no wedding? That the father who had worked 3 jobs to send her to university abroad, who had never missed a school play or graduation, was planning to kill himself rather than disappoint her. Nothing, my love. Mama is just happy for you. After hanging up, Aduni's tears flowed like rain. She remembered when Kunle first held Falake as a baby. I will give this child everything I never had, he had promised. She will never know hunger or shame. Now their daughter was planning a 300-guest wedding, trusting parents she believed were rich and stable. Their son David called weekly from Canada, grateful for the money his parents sent to help with his own engagement. Both children had no idea their father was drowning in debt, borrowing from everyone just to keep their family looking successful. Aduni ran to Kunle's study. The desk was covered with final notices, court papers, and bankruptcy documents. Bills they couldn't pay. Loans they couldn't repay. The construction business that once employed 50 families was dead. The man who had built half of Lagos's shopping centers couldn't even afford to fix the leak in their kitchen ceiling. But what broke her heart most was finding a small notebook hidden in his drawer. Page after page of calculations. How much money they needed for Folake's wedding. How much for David's support. How much to pay back the church building fund. At the bottom of the last page, in Kunle's handwriting, my life insurance will cover everything. My family will be free. She understood now. This wasn't just about money. This was about a man who had spent 20 years being everyone's hero, everyone's provider, everyone's answer to prayers. The respected businessman, the generous church member, the perfect husband and father, the man who never said no to anyone who needed help. He would rather die than let people see him as a failure. Aduni looked at the clock. 3 o'clock. Kunle's office closed at 5. She grabbed her car keys, her heart pounding with fear and love and desperate hope. Her husband was planning to die today, but she wouldn't let him go without a fight. As she drove through Lagos traffic, tears blinding her vision, she whispered the same prayer over and over. God, don't let me be too late. Don't let me lose him. Not like this. Aduni's hands gripped the steering wheel as Lagos traffic trapped her like a nightmare. Cars everywhere, horns blaring, street vendors weaving between vehicles. Every red light felt like watching Kunle slip further away from her. She called his office phone. No answer. His mobile went straight to voicemail. Please, God, she whispered, wiping tears from her eyes. Not today. Not like this. Her mind raced back to 3 months ago when Kunle had stopped eating properly. She had thought it was work stress. Now she realized he was carrying the weight of their family's future on his shoulders. Alone. While she planned their daughter's dream wedding, he was planning his own death. Her phone rang. Her brother, Tunde. Sister, I need to talk to you about the money Kunle borrowed from me. Aduni's stomach dropped. What money? 2 million naira. He said it was for a business opportunity. That was 6 months ago. I've been calling him, but he keeps promising to pay. Next week, next month. My wife is asking questions. Sister, what's happening? She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Her brother had trusted them with his retirement savings, and they had lost it all. Aduni, are you there? I'll call you back. She hung up, her hands shaking so badly she nearly dropped the phone. The traffic moved forward slowly. She was still 20 minutes from Kunle's office. In her rearview mirror, she saw herself, a woman who had lived 20 years believing she knew her husband completely, the man who brought her flowers every Friday, who still held her hand in church, who cried when their children graduated from university. How had she missed the signs? The sleepless nights when she found him staring at the ceiling, the way he flinched whenever someone mentioned money, how he had grown quiet during family prayers, as if he couldn't bear to ask God for help anymore. Her phone buzzed with a text from their pastor. Sister Aduni, we need to discuss the church building fund contribution Kunle promised. The contractors are asking for payment. Her heart shattered completely. Even the church money. The money meant to build God's house. And Kunle had touched it to keep their family looking successful. She remembered last Sunday, when Pastor Williams had praised them in front of the entire congregation. Brother and Sister Adebayo, pillars of our community, examples of God's blessings. Kunle had stood there, smiling, accepting the praise while knowing he had stolen from God's house to pay for their daughter's engagement party. The shame must have been killing him slowly. Finally, she reached his office building. The security guard knew her well. Madam, your husband left early today, around 2 o'clock. He looked very sad. Aduni's blood turned to ice. 2 o'clock, an hour ago. Where would he go? The Lagos Lagoon was 30 minutes away. The bridge he drove across every day to work. The same bridge where desperate people sometimes. She couldn't finish the thought. Racing back to her car, she called everyone she could think of. His business partner, his best friend, his younger brother. Nobody had seen him. As she drove toward the bridge, memories flooded her mind. Their first date, when Kunle was a young engineer with big dreams. Their wedding day, when he promised to love her in riches and in poverty. The night Folake was born, and he held both his girls, promising to protect them forever. "I'm coming, my husband," she whispered. "Please wait for me. Please don't leave us." The bridge came into view, stretching across the dark water like a pathway between life and death. Cars moved slowly across it in both directions. She scanned every vehicle, looking for Kunle's silver Toyota. Then she saw it, parked at the middle of the bridge, hazard lights blinking. A lone figure standing at the railings, looking down at the water below. Her heart stopped. Aduni abandoned her car in the middle of traffic and ran toward the bridge railing. Car horns blared behind her, but she didn't care. Nothing mattered except reaching Kunle before he made the worst decision of their lives. "Kunle!" she screamed, but the wind carried her voice away. He stood 50 meters ahead, his hands gripping the metal bars, staring down at the dark water. Even from behind, she could see his body shaking. This was the man who had carried her across the threshold of their first apartment, who had danced with her at their daughter's graduation, who still sang old love songs in the shower when he thought no one was listening. "Kunle, please!" She was closer now, close enough to see him turn slightly at her voice. When their eyes met, she saw 20 years of pain reflected in his face. The strong jaw that used to comfort her during difficult times now trembled like a child's. His eyes, once bright with dreams and ambition, were hollow with defeat. "Don't come closer," he said quietly. "Please, Aduni. Don't make this harder." She stopped 10 feet away, her chest heaving from running. "My husband, please come down from there. Let's go home and face this together." "There's no home left to go to." His voice broke. "They'll take the house next week. The bank. They've been patient, but patience is over. Our children will find out their father is a failure. A thief who stole from the church. A man who destroyed everyone who trusted him." Tears streamed down Aduni's face. "You are not a failure. You were the father who worked night shifts to pay for Folake's school fees. You were the husband who held me when I lost our baby. You were the man who built hospitals and schools across Lagos. One business failure doesn't erase 20 years of being a good man." "I lied to you every day for 3 years." Kunle's voice rose, raw with anguish. "Every morning when you asked about our accounts, every time you planned expenses, every family gathering where I sat there accepting praise I didn't deserve. I am not the man you married." "You are exactly the man I married." Aduni stepped closer, ignoring his warning. "The man I married was proud, sometimes too proud. The man I married loved his family so much he would sacrifice anything to protect them, even himself." Kunle shook his head, gripping the railing tighter. "Our daughter's wedding. 300 guests expecting the celebration of the year. Your parents flying in from the village, so proud of their successful son-in-law. David sending us money from Canada because he thinks we need help with the expenses, not knowing we've already spent his future inheritance."
"They love you, not your money," Aduni pleaded, now only 5 feet away. "Love doesn't pay debts," Kunle whispered. "Love doesn't restore honor. The insurance money will cover everything. Folake can still have her wedding. David can finish his studies. You can pay back your brother, the church, and everyone I've wronged. They'll remember me as the man who died trying to provide for his family, not the fraud who stole from them." Behind them, traffic had stopped completely. People were getting out of their cars, some taking pictures, others calling for help. But Aduni saw only her husband, the love of her life, ready to end everything because his pride was stronger than his will to live. "If you jump," she said, stepping onto the railing beside him, "I jump with you." "Aduni, no." Kunle reached for her instinctively. "You can't. 20 years ago, I promised to stay with you in sickness and in health, in riches and in poverty. Did you think I meant it only when times were good?" She balanced on the narrow ledge, looking into his terrified eyes. "If shame is stronger than love in your heart, then let it kill us both. But if love is stronger, then let's go home and face tomorrow together." The wind whipped around them as they stared at each other, balanced between life and death, while Lagos watched. "Get down from there!" Kunle's voice cracked with terror. "Aduni, please. This is not your burden to carry." "Your burden is my burden," she said firmly, her hand reaching for his. "Your shame is my shame. Your life is my life. That's what marriage means." Below them, the Lagos lagoon stretched dark and unforgiving. Behind them, a crowd had gathered. Someone was shouting instructions. Police sirens wailed in the distance. But in this moment, the world had shrunk to just the two of them, 20 years of love hanging in the balance. "You don't understand," Kunle whispered, tears streaming down his face. "I've destroyed everything. When the church finds out about the building fund, they'll remove me as an elder. When your family discovers I've spent your brother's retirement money, they'll never forgive me. When our children learn the truth, then we'll face it together," Aduni interrupted. "We'll tell them the truth. All of it. Today. You're asking me to live as a disgrace. I'm asking you to live as my husband." The words hung between them like a bridge stronger than the metal beneath their feet. Kunle's grip on the railing loosened slightly as he looked into her eyes. The same eyes that had smiled at him on their wedding day, that had watched their children take first steps, that had seen him at his best, and were now seeing him at his worst. "What if they hate us?" he whispered. "Then they hate us together," she replied. "But what if they don't? What if our children love us enough to forgive? What if your pride has been lying to you all these years?" A police officer approached slowly from behind, speaking in calm, measured tones. "Sir, madam, please step down carefully. We want to help you," but neither of them moved. This decision belonged to them alone.
"I remember our first fight," Aduni said softly, her voice barely audible over the wind. "You threw my wedding ring across the room because I questioned one of your business decisions. Do you remember what you said when you picked it up?" Kunle nodded, fresh tears falling. "I said I was sorry, that my pride was my biggest enemy." "And what did I say?" "You said," his voice broke, "you said pride was just fear wearing expensive clothes. I still believe that, my husband. Your pride is just fear. Fear that people will see you as human. Fear that love isn't stronger than perfection." Behind them, she could hear someone organizing the crowd, probably preparing rescue equipment. But rescue had to come from within first. "Our daughter called me this morning," Aduni continued. "She asked if I was crying. Do you know what I wanted to tell her?" Kunle shook his head. "I wanted to tell her that her father was the bravest man I knew. That he'd worked himself to exhaustion trying to provide for us. That he'd sacrificed his health, his sleep, his peace of mind because he loved us more than life itself. That if he was in trouble, it was because he had tried too hard to be perfect for people who never asked him to be perfect." Kunle's shoulders shook with sobs. "I can't face them, Aduni. I can't see disappointment in our children's eyes. Then let's call them right now, together. Let's tell them the truth together." She pulled out her phone with her free hand, still balanced on the ledge. The crowd behind them fell silent as she dialed their daughter's number. "Mama?" Folake's voice came through, bright and happy from London. "My dear," Aduni said, her voice steady despite her tears, "your father and I need to tell you something very important. Can you call your brother? We need to speak to both of you." Kunle stared at her in shock. She was really doing it. Right here, right now, she was choosing truth over fear. "Is everything all right?" Folake's voice was concerned now. Aduni looked directly into her husband's eyes. "Everything is about to be." Within minutes, both children were on the line. Folake from London, David from Toronto. The police had managed to clear some space around them, giving the family this moment while keeping rescue teams ready. "Papa, Mama, what's happening?" David's voice was tight with worry. "Folake says you sound strange." Aduni helped Kunle down from the railing first, then stepped down herself. They sat on the bridge sidewalk, the phone between them, while Lagos traffic slowly resumed around them. "My children," Kunle began, his voice shaking. "Your father has something to tell you. Something I should have said long ago." He looked at Aduni, who nodded encouragingly. 20 years of marriage and she was still his strength. "I've lost our money. All of it. The business failed 3 years ago. The house will be taken next week. Everything you thought we had, it's gone." Silence stretched across the phone line. Then Folake's voice, small and confused. "Papa, what do you mean?" "I mean there will be no wedding, my daughter. I cannot pay for it. I've been borrowing money, lying to everyone, trying to keep up appearances. I borrowed from your Uncle Tunde's retirement, from the church building fund, from friends who trusted us." The silence was deafening. Aduni watched her husband's face crumble as he waited for his children's reactions. Then David spoke, his voice thick with emotion. "Papa, is that why you've been sending back the money I send you? I thought you were just being proud. You've been sending money back?" Aduni looked at Kunle in surprise. "Every month," David continued. "For 2 years, I kept sending support for my engagement expenses, and Papa kept returning it, saying you didn't need help, but you were protecting me from knowing the truth." Folake's voice came through, crying now. "Papa, do you think we care about a big wedding? Do you think we love you for your money? But I wanted to give you everything," Kunle whispered. "I promised when you were born that you'd never lack anything. You never broke that promise," Folake said firmly. "You gave us everything that mattered. You gave us values, education, love, the ability to work hard and take care of ourselves. Papa, we're both successful because of what you taught us, not because of what you bought us." David's voice joined in. "Papa, I make good money here in Canada. Folake has a great job in London. We don't need your money. We never did. We just need our father alive and healthy." Kunle broke down completely, sobbing like a child. "But everyone will know." "The church, your grandparents, and our friends. Everyone will see that I'm a failure." "Then let them see," David said strongly. "And let them also see that you raise children who stand by their father, who loves him, not because he's perfect, but because he's ours." Folake's voice was fierce now. "Papa, cancel the wedding. We'll have a small ceremony right there in Lagos when I come home next month, in our church, with our real friends and family. The people who love us for who we are, not for how much we spend." "But your dress, the venue, all your plans." "Were just plans, Papa. You are my father. There's only one of you in this world." Aduni watched as years of shame and fear melted from her husband's face. The children they had raised with love and truth were responding with love and truth. What about Uncle Tunde's money? Kunle asked. The church fund. We'll figure it out together, David said. Maybe I can help repay Uncle Tunde. Maybe Falake and I can contribute to the church fund gradually. We're a family. We solve problems together. But I lied to you for years. Because you loved us, Falake said softly. Papa, the only thing that would disappoint us is if you gave up. If you let shame win over love. As the call ended with promises to fly home immediately, Kunle looked at his wife with wonder. They still love me, he whispered. They love us, Aduni corrected. Now we need to go home and start telling everyone else the truth. But as they walked back to their cars, Aduni's phone rang. Pastor William's name flashed on the screen. Aduni looked at Kunle, then answered the call. Good evening, Pastor. Sister Aduni, thank God I reached you. I've been trying to call Brother Kunle all day. We need to discuss the building fund contribution urgently. The contractors are threatening to stop work. Kunle closed his eyes, the old shame trying to creep back. But Aduni took his hand firmly. Pastor Williams, she said clearly, we need to come see you tonight. My husband and I have something important to confess. 2 hours later, they sat in Pastor Williams' office. The same office where they'd been praised countless times as model church members, where they'd accepted leadership positions and community awards. Now they sat as broken people seeking forgiveness. Pastor, Kunle began, his voice steady for the first time in years. I have stolen from God's house. The building fund money I promised. I used it to pay personal debts. I am not the man you thought I was. Pastor Williams sat quietly as they explained everything. The business failure, the borrowed money, the 3 years of lies. When they finished, silence filled the room. Finally, the pastor spoke. Brother Kunle, do you remember the story of David and Bathsheba? Kunle nodded, confused. King David committed adultery, then had Bathsheba's husband killed to cover his sin. When the prophet Nathan confronted him, David could have had Nathan killed too. But instead, he confessed. He said, I have sinned against the Lord. Pastor Williams leaned forward. The difference between David and Saul wasn't that David never sinned. It was that David knew how to repent with his whole heart. But Pastor, the building fund will be rebuilt by God's grace and our community's love. Brother Kunle, in 20 years of ministry, I've seen many men fall. I've seen those who run away and those who face their mistakes. You are facing yours. Tears flowed down Kunle's face. I don't deserve forgiveness. None of us do, my brother. That's what makes it grace. The next morning, Kunle stood before the church congregation. His children had flown home overnight and sat in the front row with Aduni. His hands shook as he gripped the podium. My church family, he began. I have deceived you for 3 years. He told them everything about the failed business, the borrowed money, the lies. Some faces showed shock, others disappointment. But as he continued, as he spoke about his shame and his wife's courage, something beautiful began to happen. When he finished, an elderly woman stood up. Brother Kunle, you paid for my grandson's surgery 5 years ago. You said God would provide for our family. Now let your family see how God provides for you. One by one, people began to stand. The mechanic whose shop Kunle had helped start. The widow whose rent Kunle had quietly paid for months. The young man whose university fees Kunle had covered. "We're not just a church," Pastor William said, his voice echoing through the sanctuary. "We are a family. And families don't abandon each other in hard times." By the end of the service, the congregation had pledged not only to complete the building fund, but to help the Adebayo family rebuild their lives. That evening, as Folake and David helped their parents pack the few belongings they could keep, Folake found her mother in their bedroom, looking at their wedding photo. "Mama, are you sad about losing the house?" Aduni smiled, putting her arm around her daughter. "No, my dear. I was just thinking about your father's face this morning when the congregation stood up for him. That's when I knew we hadn't lost anything that mattered." "The wedding will be beautiful," Folake said. "Small, but beautiful." "The most beautiful weddings aren't about the money spent," Aduni replied. "They're about the love celebrated." Outside, they could hear Kunle and David laughing as they loaded boxes, planning the future together. The sound of a family that had faced the truth and discovered something stronger than shame. Love that doesn't need disguises. The truth that doesn't need expensive clothes. And grace that makes all things new. This is the end of the story, but perhaps the beginning of yours. Kunle Adebayo learned that shame is just fear wearing expensive clothes, and that the people who truly love us don't need us to be perfect. They just need us to be present. His children didn't want a lavish wedding or financial support. They wanted their father alive. The church he thought would reject him chose grace over judgment. The lesson is simple, but life-changing. You are not your failures. Your worth isn't measured by your bank account or your reputation. And the truth, no matter how painful, will always set you free. If you're carrying a burden alone today, reach out, share your story. Let someone love the real you. Like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to choose life over pride.